channel. Today I thought that we could break down my reading pace. I have here with me 5 books that I've pulled off of my shelves that I think really define my taste as a stack. The first one is Migrations by Charlotte McConaughey. This is actually the latest addition to my top 3 favorite books of all time. I read this last year and I don't feel like I've really enjoyed a book since, to be honest. Nothing has compared, and I felt so attached and so compelled. I felt like I was literally there with the characters going through the full range of human emotion, and it was just fantastic. Then we have the only rom-com on this list, You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hochul. This is my god tier romance. I just think that it's so funny and charming. The characters are so ridiculous, but in a lovable way. It almost feels like a sitcom, but as a romance novel. And those are 2 of my favorite things of all time. So I love this book. Next, we have one that really crept under my skin. When I read this, I almost DNF'd it, and I think when I actually did finish it, I did enjoy it by the end, but I think when I finished it, I rated it 4.25 or 4.5 stars. And now it's been, I think, over a year, maybe exactly a year, and it has not left me. I think about it almost every single day, and I've been chasing the high of it for every day since I finished it. This is one of the most satisfying endings of a story that I've ever read. I really loved it, and one of the quotes at the front of this book says sci-fi with soul, and I think that's a perfect way to describe this book. It was sci-fi, like near futuristic. Was it near futuristic? There were a lot of different timelines. There was one in the past, one in the present, one that was in the future, and somehow all of the characters and all of the stories and all of the timelines that we were following overlapped and came together to just form such a beautiful story. I loved this book. These last 2 are my top 2 favorite books of all time. If you have watched maybe any other video on my channel, you would have heard me talking about at least one of these. Better by Frederick Bachman. This single-handedly got me back into reading back in 2021. I had never stopped reading really, but I wasn't reading as avidly as I used to when I was younger for quite a few years, and then I picked this book up and I literally have not stopped reading since. It kind of changed me and it broke me, and the second book in this series, As Against You, is actually my favorite book in the trilogy, but Bear On by itself is also a 6-star read, and I love it, and it introduced me to one of my favorite authors of all time. So, and last but not least, we have Lovely War by Julie Berry, which I also didn't know that it would be one of my favorite books of all time when I read it. I knew that I really loved it, but I didn't know how much it would stand the test of time and how much I would search for a book like this for years and not find it. I think specifically what got me really hooked and what made the difference with this book was the narrative style and the narrative voice, but we will get into it. So yeah, that's Lovely War by Julie Berry. So I actually sat down and kind of broke down some of the themes that I think made these books really lovable to me, and there are a lot of themes I would say that I pulled that kind of overlap or apply to multiple books, so we're going to break them down. Let's get into it. The first thing I have is Devastating but Hopeful. These are books that actually I don't need to explain it. I think it's self-explanatory. The books that I feel like are really devastating throughout but have a very hopeful undertone and a very hopeful message by the end of the story. Actually my top 3 books, so Migrations, Lovely War, and Beartown. I feel like all 3 of these have that in common, where for most of the story. It was very sad and very heavy. I feel like Lovely War is the anomaly between these three because I feel like throughout the entire story, it was sad, but it was also very much about love, even though it was about war. So I feel like we were really balancing the devastation and hopefulness throughout the story, as opposed to it being very sad throughout the entire thing. And then at the end, it's hopeful, but I think it kind of still fits that theme. Migrations had one of the most beautiful endings of a book ever. And Beartown didn't necessarily have a happy ending on its own, but the series definitely did, even though there was still devastation. This one is just very devastating. Like all three of the books. But there's hope. It's not just devastating. Next theme or next thing that I pulled out was an unusual narrative voice. For this one, I think three also apply. So we have Beartown, we have Lovely War, and we have Sea of Tranquility. Everybody seems to have construction to do when I'm filming a video. Anyway, so Sea of Tranquility was told through the perspective of multiple different people and multiple different timelines. So we have Remittance, 1912. That's where the book starts off, and this is just an example. And then we have Morella and Vincent, 2020. So that style of narration where it's not just one person whose story we're following throughout the entire thing, I thought that was really interesting, and it kept the story moving, and it was definitely used for a purpose that we kind of come to understand at the end. So I really love that. Lovely War is actually told through the perspective of Aphrodite. So we get one storyline with Aphrodite, and then we're also following two soldiers and their lives and their loves while they're fighting in World War, I think two, actually World War One and Two, and it's just really interesting. This one, I made this theme for this book. It's so cool. Cool is like the only word that I could think of, to be honest, because the way that they interwove the Greek gods into the story and their roles in the love lives of these people was just so fascinating to me. It definitely was like the standout factor of this book. And then also kind of getting some resolution on Aphrodite's love story. It's just it's so good. And then with Beartown, this one, I think Frederick Bachman books are always very interesting narratively, but I believe that his writing style is just that he speaks through everybody, and you never really can tell sometimes whose perspective or whose mind we're in right now and whose life we're following until like a couple sentences in. And it's just really an interesting narrative style. But aside from that, I feel like his voice is just so specific and so funny and charming, but also very profound and insightful. And I love that. It's not unusual per se, but it is specific. Okay, this one is my romance specific one. Bickering lovers. That is unfortunately my favorite thing, maybe of all time. I actually only love romance. This sounds ridiculous, but I literally only love romance books where not that they hate each other, they definitely don't hate each other, but they know how to get under each other's skin, maybe save each other. It is actually the only book on this list that really fits that, but I have like a million other romance novels that I've read that fit this theme that I have really loved. If they can get under each other's skin, to me that just shows familiarity and it shows care for the details, and it shows like a complete understanding of somebody. I just, in my head, you can't get under somebody's skin if you don't know them, if you don't know what makes them tick, if you don't know what makes them laugh. Trying to get under their skin really doesn't really. I love it. I love it. I will eat it up every single time in every single format, unfortunately. The next one is pretty straightforward but funny. I think You Deserve Each Other was really funny and not just romantic. I think when I'm looking for a rom-com, it needs to be funny. The jokes need to hit and land and make sense, and the banter and the dialogue needs to be naturally funny and not forced. So definitely You Deserve Each Other hits this mark. Beton also kind of hits the mark. It's not the funniest. I think Anxious People and A Man Called Uwe or Uwe are definitely his most funny or funniest works, but the way that he writes just has an undertone of humor. Even though the book and the contents and the themes are not funny, and the story is just very overtly emotional and sad, I feel like, as far as I can remember, there definitely are funny moments in here, and the way that he writes makes light. There's definitely, what do you call it, comedic relief in here, and I really like that. I feel like it adds a good balance to the story. In terms of writing style, I think I really, really, really love beautiful writing, but not necessarily lyrical writing, more just literary prose that has something to say. It can't be bland. I don't really love like very super straightforward writing styles. All of these definitely hit that mark. I have definitely annotated every single one of these. I can open literally any page in Migrations and give you a banner. This one just has incredible nature descriptions and writing about isolation and trauma and love. It's some of the best writing I've ever read in this book. Frederick Bachman actually never misses, not once. And then Lovely War, I actually started rereading it and annotating it this time around. It's just so fantastic, and it's also kind of quippy the way that Aphrodite, because it's from Aphrodite's perspective, she's always like explaining her role in the relationship and talking about herself as if she's an artist, and that she takes so much pride in her work, and it's so good, it's so funny. I so highly recommend all of these books. The last one that I want to talk about is kind of twofold, where we have complex relationships but also some sort of moral dilemma or moral decision that can impact the relationships around our main characters. And I think all of these kind of fit the bill. You Deserve Each Other is a bit of a stretch because I feel like there's not necessarily a moral dilemma, but there is a complex relationship between our main male character and his family, as well as the main romantic couple. There is a complex relationship there because they are an engaged couple at the beginning of the story who are just kind of falling apart and are trying to kind of out petty the other to make the other person break up with them and call off the engagement, which is so funny. Like, that is just the premise of my dreams. But other than that, all of these have some sort of moral question, and it makes you think about some sort of moral duty or moral issue. This one very heavily talks about climate change and climate catastrophe and our role in it. Sea of Tranquility talks about time. It talks about time and the importance of it, and I don't want to say anything about that book because I think that's one that you just need to go into. This one talks about love in the time of chaos and love conquering all, even against all odds, and I love that. It's not a moral dilemma necessarily, but it is something to think about. It's thought-provoking, and it is an important topic to always have at top of mind. And then Beton, in case this is not common knowledge. I know that I've seen people review this book and just say to check trigger warnings, but the trigger warning in this one, at least the major one, is sexual assault, and it is a moral dilemma. This one is more so than the others, some sort of moral dilemma where we're put in the minds of so many different people, and we see the impact that justice for the perpetrator in the story could have for the rest of the community. And it doesn't make you question yourself and where you stand on whether it's right or wrong what he did, but it does make you put things into a very nuanced perspective. And it's such an interesting reading experience morally to dive into this book and see the way that decisions kind of impact everybody around you. It's really interesting. So if I think longer and harder, I could find more themes and more tropes that kind of overlap and that I really love in stories. But for this video, I think that's all. And I actually really enjoyed this. I have been looking for a new favorite book for so long. I feel like migrations broke something in me, because now I feel like I know exactly what I love and what I want in a story, and anything that falls short of that, I'm like, okay, four stars, 4 stars, 4 stars. So I've just been doing some soul searching and trying to really get in touch with my taste and what I love. So this has been such a fun little experiment for me. So if any of you enjoy any of these themes or tropes or books, and you have any that are similar, please let me know. You would be doing me such a huge service. I need recommendations for these types of books and stories. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Bye.